Hi everyone, welcome to ELI, the place where you get your daily dose of inspiration for entrepreneurship. And today we have with us Mr. Deepak Dhar, who is the co-founder of Repute Network, which is empowering businesses and individuals to exchange content-based verified data and platform uh, to perform secure transactions seamlessly. Hi Deepak, welcome to ELI.
Thank you, Priya. Pleasure to be here.
I would request you to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Deepak Dhar. As you told, I'm founder of Repute. Prior to founding Repute, I was one of the co-founders of Nestaway Technologies, which is a home rental platform. And prior to Nestaway, I was one of the founding members at Citrus Payment Solutions, which was a payment gateway later acquired by PayU. So I've been in the startup ecosystem for about 11, 12 years now.
Tell us a bit about Repute Network.
Sure. Uh, Repute, as such, is a business network which is connecting the business systems. But why connect business systems when we already have one system? If
Hmm.
you look at it today, both of us have to talk to each other.
Right.
So both of us need to be on Zoom.
Hmm.
And Zoom may be a preferred application for you. Maybe Zoom was not a preferred application for me. But still, I had to. One of us had to compromise, maybe based on depending whatever is needed to make this call happen, and both of us came on this application. Let's call this more of a platform approach,
Mm-hmm.
that both have to be on the same platform for us to be able to interact, to be able to transact, or do anything else. This was primarily, I'll put it out, a Web 2 phenomena. Like Web 1 will be a one-way street of communication, which
Hmm.
was that somebody published data onto the websites and somebody consumed data, which is being published by the publisher on that. And Web 2 became where the collaboration on both sides started, and that created a set of systems, let's say, or platforms, and that either these are
Hmm.
marketplaces where there's a buyer and seller, or there's a social media where there are parties who are interacting from the same side with each other, or it
Hmm.
might be maybe
Hmm.
the SaaS tools also, which is that there is a service provisioning is not by a service provider but by a software, but still it's a platform where multiple softwares are there. So this was a platform era that was there. I think last 15 years was a platform era, to put it that way, marketplaces, platforms.
Hmm.
And this created this limitation where both of us needed to be on the same platform for
Right.
it to work.
Hmm.
But email was not like that. Email is like you might be on Outlook, I might be on Gmail, but I can send an email to you.
Yeah.
And so that is not necessarily limited to a platform. We can be on any platforms and still it can work with each other.
Hmm.
So email is more built on a network, and there's a standardized protocol that has been built up, and that is where and it enables a very different kind of flexibility and innovation that can happen, because I'm not the users are not really tied up to a platform because other users are already there, or buyers are not tied up to a platform because other sellers are already there. So the whole lot of new things can be built simply because now distribution is not that big a problem if you can bring to this particular network. And so it's not a problem where you had to scale up everything together to be able to make use of something. It's like a lot of
Hmm.
buyers are already there. You introduce a different kind of a seller app into the ecosystem, and that works. uh, I'll give you an example of
Sure.
this is like, say, Paytm and all the digital wallets that existed earlier.
Hmm.
So they were like the buyer, I mean, the merchant also had to be on the same digital wallet. The user also had to be, the payer also had to be on the same digital wallet.
Right.
And that got disrupted by, say, UPI, which is a network approach.
Hmm.
And in a UPI, I might be using a phone pay app or a Google Pay app to
Hmm.
scan a Bharat Pay QR code to move my money from my ICICI account to merchant's HDFC account. So see,
Hmm.
service providers were different. There were two banks. The
Right.
merchant service provider is a HDFC bank. Our service provider was ICICI bank.
Hmm.
I was using a different system, which is a app for myself, and probably the merchant's ID is using something else. But
Hmm.
still, we could make this use case happen. And now this unleashes a lot of innovation that is possible between different players, what kind of services can be done, what kind of things can be built in the interfaces, etc. Same is what we are looking at is that these have to have in every ecosystem that exists. the centralized platform are limiting the amount of use cases that are possible on that, and such networks can exist. Then these networks can talk to each other. Say,
Mm.
and to begin with, we have started with a ecosystem which is we call the talent ecosystem or the professional ecosystem.
Okay.
Why with professional ecosystem is, let's say, when say LinkedIn happened, say
Mm.
2004 5, or maybe around that time. Uh, and there was before LinkedIn, we had say standalone maybe classifieds, the Naukri or
Mm.
things like that, where you can post a job. You can post
Right.
a job, and somebody can apply to that particular job. So
Mm.
kind of a one-way street, maybe two-way street where something will happen, but it was basically a resume online
Yes.
and jobs online. Then LinkedIn came in. LinkedIn told we'd create a better trust among people. How do we do it? Is you will be connected to multiple other people. So not just it's a, uh uh, resume which is going to stay up to date because this is your professional network profile. So you would want to keep it updated, but
Mm.
also because there are multiple other connections. So it will give trust to the parties. But eventually, it is still a resume plus my connections to other people. It
Mm.
worked well for some time, like Facebook as a social network would work for something else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Over a period of time, we reached a stage where I'm very, very confident that out of all the connections that you have on LinkedIn,
Mm.
I mean, beyond 50%, and 50% is the best answer that I've received so far.
Okay.
You would not know the people that you are connected to.
True.
So it has reached that stage. So those connections are not really providing much meaning right now.
Mm.
That is done. So it's basically still we are back to being having a resume. So how does a professional network work like that? And so that is where we said that let this resume be something which is continuously getting updated on its own. Even a user does not have to. Where is my resume? My resume is already distributed across the HR ecosystem. The
Mm.
different HR systems already have my job profile or what designation I had, what tenure I had, everything else that is there. So it's a distributed HR system. I can put it out, which is or will give me my distributed LinkedIn. Sorry, by connecting all to all the HR systems, I can get to that.
Okay.
So this is my me as a user use case.
Mm-hmm.
Various now the trust use cases that LinkedIn was attempting to solve comes up further because now this information is accurate is not because I am saying it.
Mm.
This accurate information is accurate because there's an employer who is saying it and employer system who is saying this.
Mm.
So my user, the employee system, has become something. Let's say there is a equivalent of LinkedIn, which is continuously getting updated by various HR systems. So that's one profile.
Okay.
This is something which a employee is using or a user is using, and then there is other profile which the employer is using, which is their HR systems. And because of the interactions between my profile and the company profile
Mm.
over this network, both sides, my profile keeps getting updated. My employer knows
Right.
if a new employer knows when I join them that yes, their information is correct,
Mm.
and this unleashes many more systems because now these systems have can speak to each other. Then it's not necessary that all systems have been built by one vendor. It can be I can choose best of class systems who can again speak to each other in a privacy preserving and trust preserving manner. I can have a system which can talk to the employee system. I can so
Mm.
one is this unbundling unleashes specialization
Mm-hmm.
in terms of now people can build systems which are very specific to, let's say, performance management
Okay.
or say leveling or the niche use cases which earlier could not be built because my distribution will be a problem can
Mm-hmm.
be built now, and these can be now interoperated with the existing HR system. So I do not have to worry about that. I have to build everything, otherwise the enterprise will not use me. That's one benefit that I get.
Right.
Second benefit is this interconnected network. Now I don't have to worry about, say, background verification. I can just send a query on the network and I can get a response from the other party, my past employers. And
Mm.
the whole process of which takes like weeks and months now gets done in seconds. And
Mm.
third was my own as an employee use case, which is uh, I can have a updated profile all the time, and it can be my system to interact with the various employer systems.
Okay.
Even better that comes up is now because these systems exist.
mm,
The companies that do not have to go about, say, today insurance is a use case. Let's say in an
mm,
insurance use case, what will happen is a company will have to go and probably sign up with the platform, and then on the other side, insurance companies are coming on the same platform.
mm,
uh, Again, the old web 2 paradigm of bringing everybody on the same platform versus as an employer, I already have my system, which is my HR system. If my HR system can talk to the insurance systems, I don't
mm,
really need to go to a third party system to be able to buy an insurance for my employees.
mm,
Or the use cases can be just the lending use case. As an employee, if I am looking for maybe release salary, I mean, earned wage access use case or some
okay.
salary advance, I don't have to go and ask my employers. In the same my employer system, I can create a request which can actually go to the say fintechs who can say, oh, I see the entire data, which is your
Mm,
employment data, your designation, your tenure, your say income and everything else, and I can give you this offer. The
okay.
entire use case of creating a salary advance for the employer is
Mhm,
provided by the employer right in the HR system. You don't have to go about going to various places, prove your employment, prove your
okay.
income, prove your say various other things to be able to have access to
Okay.
a salary advance. So these are the use cases that we are building. But the simple question that you asked, what is Repute network to begin with? Then Repute is a network which is connecting systems to
Mm,
each other, and connecting systems to each other requires a bunch of things and has a bunch of use cases.
okay. So one question that comes to my mind when you build a network-based model, it works only
Mhm.
when substantial number of nodes, if you will, or substantial number of HR systems and companies are on board. That is how you
Right, right.
have a database of, let's say, significant pool, let's say 70% of the candidates that are there in the market. That is when it will work. So can you tell us how you are going to solve this challenge?
So any network which is going to have a scale either should grow so fast, like a lot of people should come at it at the same point of time, and they should start using it so that when you first come on board, it does not seem like a ghost town that nobody is here, and
Yeah.
uh, it is not. I think we are not necessarily in the social network kind of a scene where we are looking at a very fast growth kind of thing. I'll put it out. I think Repute is more like there's a telecom provider who is going to be laying the say wires for some time, and after 2 3 years, once wires have been laid out, everything is ready. That is the time when the service is launched, and
Okay.
now your connections will be available and everything else. So
Mhm.
we are in that where we are working with the partners to build this network, and
Okay.
fortunately, we have already reached a stage where we have 10 integrations finished. There are about 20 more. Which are in various stages of discussions and integrations, and there's another 10 which not yet started, but at least in principle we have some sort of agreement with them
Okay.
of integration. So as such, these systems are definitely moving forward. But
Mm,
to your answer question is like when you start, what do you do? A standard answer to that would be there should still be some utility
mm,
when somebody is coming on board.
right.
So your cross-site network would take time.
Mm,
What happens for us is sorry, same side network may take time, but let's say
okay.
there is a earned wage use case, which is
Mm,
your salary advance use case. In salary advance use case for a company, let's say even if one HRMS come on board,
mm,
on the other side, even if there is one, say, fintech company who is willing to lend,
mm,
still the transaction can happen.
right.
Employee can get a salary advance. So
Yeah.
there is some utility that you can create on the network when you are starting. Even if there is one, say, HRMS which is on board, and within that HRMS may have 5,000 companies.
Mm,
Within those 5,000, let's say there's only one company which is live right now in the
mhm,
network. But on the other side, there's only one insurance broker.
mm,
Still, that insurance at least can be purchased from here on the network for this person. He does not have to go and do that. And the tools come into the picture. A lot of operational tools come into the picture in terms of like for insurance use case, I can put it out is every month when a new employee joins the company, the insurer is notified that this person has joined. Whenever somebody leaves, the insurer is again notified.
mm,
So Initially, it is the operational convenience that comes into, as they say, come for the tool, stay for the network. So initially is that people will be joining or people join for the tool, and over a period of time, as the network keeps growing,
Mm.
the value of the network itself kind of provide the reason to stay.
Okay. Next question that comes to my mind is on data security front. For example,
Yeah, yeah.
due to GDPR and all, even it is difficult for social media companies to capture data and use it for purposes for which the user has not shared the data for. And similarly, the HRMS systems, they are keeping the data of employers and employees, and sometimes they may not have the consent of the employer to share the data with with the network. And I think when you scale that up with multiple HRMS systems, and then multiply with the number of companies they have onboarded, and then multiply with the number of employees they have in their system. So I think there is a huge permission issue where you may necessarily don't have the permission to get their data or use their data. How are you going to solve that problem?
Yeah. I'll first state this out very, very clearly.
Okay.
HR systems or anybody who is building tools, they are not really the data owners. I think that's between the partners and us. It is very, very clear. Data owners are either the companies or the employees. So nothing moves or without them initiating it or giving
Mm-hmm.
consent to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the use case is really based on how the companies want to opt in, companies want to use the service, companies want to.
Okay.
So it's not something that your data has surreptitiously been given out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not a centralized place where all the data has been brought in and now this data is getting
Okay.
exchanged between the various parties. The data continues to stay within the firewalls of your respective
Mm-hmm.
systems that are there today. We don't bring the data onto the any centralized system, and that's the beauty of this. Like if we had tried to do it, can the entire world's data come onto a single HRMS? It will never happen.
Mm-hmm.
It is never going to happen that there is going to be one or two players who are going to take over the entire enterprise SaaS, uh, say, market as such. Enterprise SaaS market is a largely fragmented market and will continue to stay so.
Mm-hmm.
So the best chance for us to make it happen is connect these systems to each other. Now, connecting these systems to each other, does that result into a data breach, etc.? Again, I'll go back to the previous example that we had. It's email.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I can send email to you does not mean I can read your email
Right.
mailbox
Yeah.
entirely, or you can send mail to me. It does not mean you can send.
Mm-hmm.
Just there are auto respond rules that you can set up that if such a request come from these particular people, respond them by I am out of office and please reach back to me at this point of time. If these people mail me, then do this. So there are various auto respond rules that you can set up. That's basically the kind of rules that you can set up here as well. That if
Okay.
a employee verification request comes from a fintech,
Mm.
don't worry about it. This just read from the HRMS and reply to them. As an employer, I can set up those rules.
Okay.
As an employer, I can set the fine grain things on that. No, I don't want any auto responses to go. I want to be able to
Mm.
see and I'll manually respond to each of those.
Okay.
As an employer, you have a choice when you receive a request or something else. Is uh, do I want to what do I want to share? As a company, you may have a policy that I may give out the role of the person, I may give out the tenure of the person, behavior of the person, but I'll not give out the exact salary or the designation or the reporting manager. So
Okay.
you can set up these rules that what only requirement of a ecosystem is that it's reciprocity. What
Mm.
you are willing to give is what you can get. So
Mm.
it's something like if you are not ready to give read receipts to others, then you will not get read receipts from others. If you are not willing to give salary data, if somebody is trying to do a background verification, that when you raise a background verification request, you cannot ask for the salary verification data.
Mm.
So those are the basic rules into that thing. And if you look at it, even the usual web is also basically running on a protocol. There's a HTTP protocol where you're going to receive the request in your server and you are going to make a response based on the request that has come out. It's similar. It has not changed significantly in this world. It's just that the kind of protocols that are there are slightly different on this, the way
Mm.
it would be built on a distributed. ecosystem.
Okay. Uh, Next question is around the business. So, like you said, your the example you took about telecom, where they for first 2 3 years they just link the wires to connect the system, and then it will work. So, but still there has to be immediate usability where you can see the cash flows and be operative as a business. So can you tell us what are the immediate revenue streams for you, and what is the traction you have got as a business so far?
So as I told, some of those use cases would always be related to what already exists. So if you're building
Mm,
a network, first of all, I do not say that it is necessary that you have to have something as a revenue on the first day itself. We are
mhm,
building a factory. You are going to build a factory. You're
mm,
going to start production. It's not
right.
necessary that you'll be able to produce revenue on the day one just because you have started a business.
Mm,
It's similarly, there are different kind of businesses. I'll put it out that way. So in software business also, I'll put it something is which is a network effects based business,
mm,
and something which is purely a services business that I created a service and you start using that.
mm,
Purely a services business also has a lead time to reach
mm,
to a certain place, because as the system is maturing, you'll start getting more and more say functionalities into it, and the reason for people to switch to your system. If you're in an absolutely brand new market and there are some things that happen, then it's okay. I think we can start doing otherwise initially the approach for a services a software services kind of business would be that be frugal and try to make sure that you outlast the time that is required to build the system, which is
mm,
minimal lovable by your customers in sense. So once you've reached that stage, you can get to that. Something which is a network effect based business that requires you to reach a certain level of network before
mm,
the economics really start making sense on that.
yeah.
So a lot of confusion that happens, I believe, is uh, we start thinking that, oh, we are in tech business, which is very very service oriented business, uh, uh, but you expect that, oh, I can afford to not make money for a very long period of time and I can still go ahead. And the businesses which are very network effect business, and there you try to think of it, oh, let me try to earn profit even before the network has reached any kind of tipping point that is there. So both of those are different. If you understand this, then it's very easy. I can give you an example
Sure.
from a previous startup, let's say.
Sure.
Uh, now we Nestaway is a platform. Let's say there are owners and there are tenants. Over a period
Mm,
of time, if the number of owners are increasing, then there's a value for the tenants are increasing. If the number of
mm,
tenants are increasing, the value for the owners are increasing, and
right.
it is. And as both of them are increasing, maybe there are more service providers who are joining the network in terms of for providing, say, electrician, plumber, carpenter, all those things to provide
Mm,
services to the homes. Because more of these people are joining, then there are other services which are going to become easier that you can provide. And as you are going ahead, there's a data that is getting captured about the house over a period
mm,
of time. What kind of maintenance has gone into the house? What are the problems that are there in the house? Let's say
mm,
there's an area where there's water deficiency. Now you can get to know that there's a place where the water is not, and it starts getting factored into the rent that is there, because there's a because first day when the house comes on the platform, you will not really know the problem areas. So this
mm,
is very network oriented business, and you need
okay.
to scale. But there's a very geographic centric network.
Mm, right.
Like we having multiple houses in Bangalore, and
Mm,
somebody looking houses in Bangalore is not going to help us in any way in NCR. There are
right.
very small amount of network effect that play into picture. Is like I am somebody who has a house in Gurgaon, but I live in Bangalore.
Mm,
Then if I have used Nestaway service in Bangalore, I may look like putting my Gurgaon house also on Nestaway. But otherwise, the network effect across geographies are very very limited. So you have to have a geographically scaling up. It's basically building multiple networks at the same time, which is build Bangalore network, build. Uh, Unfortunately, in real estate, it becomes even smaller. That it's a build maybe a South Bangalore network, because if my job is in South Bangalore, there's a certain
mhm,
region beyond which I'm not going to go.
yeah.
Versus, let's say there is a co-living business, which is we have taken an entire building, we have taken it on lease, and then we are subleasing to various tenants were going to come into picture. Nestway had
Mm.
a subsidiary called Hello World, which was doing this, which has recently been acquired by Aurum PropTech.
Okay.
So now that's the network effects there are lesser. I can go and take a business or a building on rent from some owner,
Mm.
and in an area it's relatively easy to find a large scale building. There is going to be a reception there where if you go there, the property manager already exists there.
Mm.
So the dynamics of these businesses, two businesses, are going to be very, very different.
Mm.
uh, One business can aim for profitability and can aim for unit economic profitability from very early on. Another business requires it to have a certain amount of scale where
Right.
it goes. Once we understand this, I think we can make optimal choices for which kind of a business it is and what
Mm.
would be the right metrics to judge this kind of a business.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of Nestaway, I'd love to understand what led to the transition from real estate kind of business to a technology first business.
So I don't think we see it in terms of technology that way. Before Nestway, I was in fintech. So
Hmm.
CitrusPay was a payment gateway, and we were
Okay.
trying to create a payment. We were building a payment gateway, then a payment wallet,
Okay.
and various things. So that there are problem statements, like the core problems uh,
Mm.
are there that you would want to solve.
Okay.
These problems are in different fields altogether, right?
Hmm.
Like if you're changing the domain
Mm.
or changing the technology skills that you have, then
Okay.
it's a problem. Like changing everything at the same time is slightly difficult. But if you're
Mm.
changing, let's say you're changing just the domain, but your skill set is very much similar.
Mm.
Let's say you're trying to see that I know I understand a problem that exists, and I've
Okay.
learned how to work on a problem and to scale it. Unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you call it, these were very different kind of businesses also. Not just domains have changed for me.
Mm.
There have been like CitrusPay was a very B2B business.
Mm.
Then Nestway was a B2C business. Now
Right.
we are into a B2B2B or B2B2C business because we are
Yeah.
first working with the system providers, the tools, and
Mm.
then they are further working with the businesses or consumers. So the kind of businesses also have changed. I think the domains also have changed from
Mm.
finance to say real estate to now, right now in HR kind of space.
Mm.
Uh, but I think the core when you're building a startup is something which is very different, which is at a very basic level, it's just the faith,
Mm.
that oh, this is a problem that need to be solved, and I want to solve this. So
Mm.
as a entrepreneur, you do not take a lot of these things into consideration because the kind of problem that really inspire you to do something may
Mm.
not necessarily fall into the area where you already have an expertise. All the chances of that is high because
Okay.
if you are already on the cutting edge of something, the chances of you discovering more problems
Mm.
is very high. So the
Mm.
chances of you discovering something in the area where you already have expertise or where you've already gone deep
Mm.
is very high. Like I'll give an example of Jiten Gupta, who's founder of CitrusPay now. He's founder of Jupiter Money.
Okay.
So in the finance ecosystem, because he understands the ecosystem so well,
Mm.
because of his own experiences and his investments and his speaking to so many other people, the
Mm.
chances of him finding problems in finance area or in that space is very high. He'll keep discovering because he's already at cutting edge
Okay.
progress happening on that. So it's always good if you stay in the same area or domain wise, and because you can keep going on. But then what calls you is a very different kind of problem statement. For me, it just happened to be the things that are uh, that were brewing in the say background happen to be in very different kind of spaces.
Hmm. Okay. You started as an engineer, and I think you worked for some investment banks and global banks initially, and then slowly, if I were to look at your career graph, you have gravitated towards entrepreneurship. First joining a startup as a founding member, and then becoming a founder. So, can you tell us what is that trigger, or what is that drive within you, which drives you to come to this path and be an entrepreneur?
I think I'm not sure whose was this. It was Justin Moskowitz. I think in one of the talks that I had seen on YouTube was that why do you start up something? You don't start up something because you're going to be your own boss. No, it's something like your customer is your boss, your employee is your boss, your investors are your boss. It's very different. It's not exactly how. Why you do something largely is because it reaches a time where you say, uh, I cannot not do it, kind of thing. That something has been brewing in the background and it reaches a certain stage and you say, oh, nobody is doing anything. Why not I only do it? So
Mm,
for me, payment gateways was that kind of a thing because I was working for WorldPay, which is a payment gateway in
mm,
during RBS time. And India's, say, e-commerce was really taking off 2008, 9, 10, around that point of time.
mm,
So, and there was a lot of problem statements that we were hearing that in terms of uh, what are the kind of issues payment gateways are and how payment gateways or payment technology can be better for
mhm,
e-commerce to really happen and other things. So that was a place where I said, oh, that was, in fact, if you look at it, that was a place where I had the skill and I was looking, okay, let's do it for the Indian market. Why not do it? And I was trying to really get an internship with one of the payment gateways
okay.
uh, so that I can understand the business before I take a dive into it.
Mhm,
And during that time, I just happened to meet founder of Jupiter. And now again, here was like I could think of it was okay. Why not join forces with somebody or like work at the same place? It
mm,
was not about ownership that I am the founder of this company. That's why I should be doing this. Or why not
okay.
I start a payment gateway of my own? You relate to a problem and you said this is a team which is trying to solve a problem. Definitely that works for me. I would want to work for this team.
Okay.
At a later stage, we reached a stage where I think Citrus grew up to a certain place, and it during payment gateway phase, I'll put it out as I didn't change the domain. I changed
Okay.
the function for myself from being a software engineer and designer. I went into business operations and really
Mm,
starting it from very very early days of Citrus Pay.
mm,
The second stage was where you have learned the skills of probably scaling up a business. Now you are
mhm,
also going back to other set of your problems that you have always faced in. Like we
mm,
all moved to cities for after graduation, and
yeah.
all of these knowledge job hubs were NCR,
Mm,
Bangalore, Hyderabad, Pune, maybe. And there was a lot of housing problem in that. All of us lived in areas, like all of
mm,
us took houses together, or we lived in PGs, or we two, five or six or three of us will get together, take a house, and then we'll try to live together. And we knew what were the kind of problems that were happening in that. We just realized that those problems are not even solved till the time 2014. Also, I think
mm,
2014 is
mm,
when the initial stages of Nestway were happening. So this was a problem statement which you had faced as a user, and you
mm,
had acquired skills as a founding member of another startup. So now you had two things in place. You know, a problem statement that bothers you. You think you can do something about it, and second was you have acquired some skills. So you said, "Let me put my skills to use," and you start working on it.
mm,
Fortunately, it works out,
okay.
and turns out that we can scale it on that. Third time, it was a different problem statement. Now, during Nestaway days, now we have a different. So, renting is a lending of assets business.
Mm,
Like lending of money is happening in the finance world. Lending of assets is the renting ecosystem. That I'm lending my asset to somebody, and the interest is the rent that you pay, and at the end of the day, you are going to pay back the principal to me, which is the asset itself.
mm,
That's renting business.
mm,
But now lending of assets business do not have a credit bureau, do
mm,
not have a centralized KYC. How do
right.
you make such a lending business work without these structural elements being present?
Mm,
So you have to have these structural elements present for this work. So the problem statement was now there was skills that you had acquired over working for
mm,
two startups, and there's a problem statement which was bothering you in your current startup, which was Nestaway, where if there was tenants who were leaving without paying, and that was actually putting a burden on a lot of good tenants. The bad tenants are, say, not paying rents, and because we were taking just 2 months of security deposit, that was putting pressure on a lot of other areas. In that, our owners were not returning the security deposits which was given to that. According, I mean, there's a lot of this popular perception Nestle has not paid back the deposit, etc. But generally, Nestle would have paid the deposit to owner, and owner had to pay it back, and that did not happen. So now for this network, where and why it worked was because I can move on in life, and this was not a problem just of Nestle. It was a problem of bike rental. People were
Mm.
parking the bikes on the bridges over
Right.
flyovers and were putting them in some ditches, were taking away the helmets. Was problem was in the furniture rental space, where I know is there's a
Yeah.
friend of mine whose furniture was given to her, and that person just told the security guys, "Don't allow this people to come in." So there's a thief basically who has taken the furniture of a company. He's not returning that, and the security of the apartment complex is actually helping him.
Okay.
That was the kind of state that we are looking at. So now
Mm.
we said, how do we build a system which can be? And if you can build a system where all these rental systems can talk to each other,
Mm.
then you can create a network, and then such a distributed credit bureau can exist, which is where we started with Repute. Unfortunately, as soon as we started and we built by the time we could build the product, I think pandemic was in full
Yeah.
force and all the rental companies were in bad state.
Mm.
So they were more worried about surviving than probably adding more to it. So at that stage, fortunately for us, we were also doing a couple of other pilots. One of
Mm.
those pilots was in the talent space and it was working well. So we just scaled that up.
Okay. Uh, I think we have exhausted our time limit. Just one more question for you. Uh, what
Sure.
would you say is the meaning of entrepreneurship for you? How would you define the term entrepreneur?
How do we define the term entrepreneur? It's a desire to do something when even when you are beginning, you know you don't have the resources, or your logic does not really tell you that uh, this can be done, or this not everything is put in place. I'll put it that way.
Hmm.
So that there is a desire that such a world should exist. When you have such a desire, and that world existence, your will to create that world is not dependent on what resources you have, what logic is saying to you, how if you have figured out how you will overcome all the other obstacles in trying to make it happen. uh, I think that is entrepreneurship, where your desire to make that happen is stronger than all the possible obstacles that you can see when you're starting out. If you can still do it, you're an entrepreneur and you'll be able to do something about it. If that bothers you and you don't get started, I mean, 99% of the people would be in that state where they feel it's way more difficult than what actually it is. Uh, so as they say about technology, especially, it's like when you're seeing it up front, you will overestimate things. In short term, you will grossly overestimate. In long term, you will grossly underestimate.
Right.
So that's I feel that is both sides. That is for problems as well as opportunities.
Well, we have come to the end of the session. Thanks for your time, Deepak, and it was our honor to have you on the platform.
Thank you very much, Prem. It was nice to be here. Loved our conversation. Wish you the very best.
Thank you.